Well, hello, and welcome back to another Self-Publishing Mastery Talks episode. I know it's been a little while, but there was a lot going on in the background. You'll find out in due time. I'm Angie Billig, and I'm excited to bring you today a wonderful host. And you'd better stick with us till the end because there is so much for you to learn. And I'm so excited to have her because I just finished reading her book. It's titled Get Your Book Seen and Sold. It's also our recommendation for April in the Self Publishing Mastery Book Club. If you don't know what that is, go to our website and you'll find out. She's an author, she's a book marketer, and she's a podcast host. And her name is Claudine Wolk. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, we were like turning the tables here because I got to interview you. So this is exciting.
Yeah, and your podcast is definitely must listen for everybody who is really dedicated to building a career as an author, as I think everybody who is watching and listening this today is. And it is available on Substack, so that's where people can find you.
Yes, yeah, it's on every podcast platform wherever you listen to podcasts. It's all over. So thank you so much. Those are kind words.
Yes. So that's a must listen, but also there is a must read. And I would say that your book is the type of book that I would, and I am, I didn't get a chance to order it, but I have the EPUB, but I really need the paperback. And I'm going to explain why. Because this book, and I know you're out of copies, but you can still show it to us. You have it on your you have it on your iPad.
Yes.
This is the kind of book that you want to have it on your bookshelf with other essential books for people who want to self-publish and be successful, because this is a kind of book which you want to revisit every now and then. And it's got also a ton of exercises. So if you have the ebook, then you have to grab a piece of paper. But if you have the paperback, then you can just go there and, mark the pages and all that. So
Yeah, that was our intention. I'm so glad you said that. We were really hoping, my co-author Julie Marquette and I were hoping that authors would cherish it and treat it
yeah,
like one of their resources that they could go back to again and again and know that they're not alone, that other authors have been where they are, and that there is a way through.
yeah, it's a great companion, and it's there for your whole authorship journey. And I would also say that this book, okay, let me bring this on screen. At least you can
Oh,
see it
that's
here.
fabulous.
Yeah, Get Your Book Seen and Sold.
Yeah, I can show it.
Yeah, so this book is, I'm raving about it because
Yeah.
I love it so much. I think as a book marketer myself, it's it's really everything you need to know about book marketing in a nutshell. From what is the best route for me, self-publishing or traditional publishing, going down to what I like to incorporate into author branding, message, hook, and readers, what is your target audience, and then getting even deeper into the book marketing process, which also includes publicity. So we'll have a lot to talk, but today I want to focus on one topic which is very, very, very important. And I think many authors, they feel overwhelmed. And I think this thing can also make the difference, also makes the difference between people who are successful and people who aren't. And this is getting really clear about who is your target audience, who is the ideal reader.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny, Andrew, because that we found that the thought to who is actually gonna read your book
Mhm.
happens too late in a lot of cases for authors to really target them. And when they start to think about, book marketing, the book's already published and out, and it's, they're already down the road. So our idea was, let's get authors thinking about, you said it's so overwhelming, there's so many things you can do, and let's face it, it's there's an industry out there now that wants all of the authors dollars. And
Mhm.
so there's a lot more thrown at authors. You could do this, you could do that, pay for this, pay for that, and it's
Mhm.
going to lead to all these great book sales. So we thought, listen, we're going to kind of get this into a nuts and bolts,
Yeah.
just a few things. The book is very thin, but if we give everyone the breadth of what is possible, then they can pick and choose what
Yeah.
they should do and what's best for them. So we have exercises in the book to help you with what we call the book marketing fundamentals. And the first two, and then they kind of go side by side, are message and audience, or reader, who your readers are going to be. And when we talk about audience or readers, we're now talking about everybody in the world who
Mhm.
would possibly pick up your book. We're asking you to get real
That's
specific about who you imagine is going to go on Amazon and type in the search bar specifically for your book. And if you take the time to do that, and we have a little exercise that you mentioned in the book that asks leading questions
yeah.
for you to come up with that answer. Once you know who that is, who your specific readers are, and I'll give you an example. My first book was titled "It Gets Easier and Other Lies We Tell New Mothers." And it's a parenting book for moms, for new moms, specifically new moms, not pregnant moms, not moms that are older, new moms. You know,
Yeah.
first baby and you just had a baby, because let's face it, pregnant moms, they don't want any of your advice. They think it's going to be easy, and they won't hear anything other than it's going to be easy. So they're not your audience or my audience. But and mothers who are older already have the experience, and maybe they don't want to relive those first, baby days. So we wanted new moms. So um, that was very, very specific. And then when we realized that it was new moms that I was targeting, we were able to say, okay, well, where do new moms go? Where do new moms go? To get information about, helping them with having a baby. And gosh, like the whole world opens up now. So now, instead of the whole world or every woman in the world reading your book, now you're down to new moms. Well, where do new moms go? Well, they go to the doctor, right? They take their baby to the doctor. Well, what's in every doctor's office?
Magazines. Mhm.
Pregnancy magazine, new mom and baby magazine. There's a whole bunch of magazines for parents. So parents, parenting, all those things. So maybe those are the places that you want to go and pitch your book to for
Mhm.
a review, for a mention, or for an interview of you. So that's the idea. For this latest book, Get Your Book Seen and Sold, who's the specific reader for that? Well, it's not everyone. It's writers. Okay, let's get more specific. What kind of writers? It's really um, new writers, or aspiring writers. Sometimes writers who have already written, maybe they would find the information, they're past it. It's not enough. So it really is aspiring writers. Well, where do aspiring writers go to get information? Well, maybe they read Writer's Digest, which is a magazine. A lot of them do go on Amazon, and they're thinking about writing a book, and they want a how-to book. They go right to Amazon and they start typing in, well, maybe I want to spend time on Amazon promoting this book. Where else do writers go? They go to writers conferences. New writers, aspiring writers go to writers conferences. Oh my gosh, how many writers conferences are there across, you know, the country? But anyway, the point is that if you can identify your audience, then you can specifically target where to spend your time and money. So now, instead of throwing it all over the place, you're specifying where your market, where your audience is. And you'll notice I didn't say, Facebook, I didn't say Instagram, I didn't go right to social media. I started to talk about some of the more traditional places, because for these two books that I mentioned, that's where my audience
That's
goes.
real. Yeah. You said this book is for aspiring authors. I would say and we put that in the review. It's a very refresher for
Mhm.
even authors who have a few books under their belt, but they didn't quite get the marketing process yet.
Mhm.
So yeah, well, if you're like a big romance authors with a big following, probably you have figured things out, so you don't need it. But if you're not there yet, I think again, this book is a great refresher, and it is written. What makes it, I think, makes it stand out is that, as you just said, you went through the process yourself, so it's based on your own experience, and also it is written with so much love. You will see, when you pick it up, it's really cute. I mean, it's cute. It's a delightful book in so many ways. And you can feel the passion, your Claudine's passion and her co-author's passion is it's like a friend is talking to you. And speaking of, the industry throwing more services and courses at you, I know there are people out there who are in for the money, but there are people like Claudine, um, and we have also our friend April Cox.
Yes.
So there are people in. So okay, we are back. So there are people in the industry who are genuinely interested in helping you. And even if you decide to enlist professional help, which is a great idea because there is so much to do, by reading the book, you'll know what to expect. You'll know what to ask. I mean, if a publicist comes to you and say, "Okay, we are going to put you on social media," or you can ask them, "Well, where are you going to pitch me? What is the angle and all those things? Do you have a press release? Let me see the press release because everything is there."
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, but back to the target audience. So, back in the day, I was in advertising, and I remember those companies. They had like big budgets for focus groups and bringing people together to try to figure out who is the right person for
Mhm.
their service or for their product. But us as authors, we don't have that budget to get a few people and ask them questions. So, how do we go about finding this ideal reader, and what would be the difference between fiction and nonfiction in your opinion?
That's a great question, and you bring up a point. The book really is for, fiction or nonfiction writers, and it's also for, those who decide to self-publish or to publish because, as you mentioned, if you do find a traditional publisher, then, a lot of the marketing is still gonna be on the author, so it's really an education for both, self-published and traditionally published authors. But how do you find your target audience? It's such a great question. We have some questions in the book for you to ask yourself and to write out and to give you a better idea of really who you're targeting or who you could imagine is really going to benefit from this book or story. So that's where the fiction
Mhm.
comes in. Who's going to love your story? And one way you can really identify who your audience is to identify some of the messages and themes in your book. One kind of begets the other. So when I was doing the mom book, for example, and there's a little exercise in the book called it's called brain dump, which I probably should have found a better word for dump because it's kind of a negative. But anyway,
It's all
you
right. It's fun.
you get the picture.
Yeah.
So, what are you trying to share? And even fiction books are trying to share themes for sure, just like nonfiction books. So you kind of write out all the different themes. And when you start to write out the different themes and messages that you're trying to share with your book, audience, the people who you can imagine reading the book come out. And that's why I think they both kind of go hand in hand. So when we were talking about the mom book, it was things that we started to realize that new moms were feeling. There's some judgment in motherhood. There's issues about working and not working. There were issues about adjusting with a newborn. There was baby care, which is kind of new for moms. So once we started to pick those out, then we started to say, okay, well, geez, who cares about motherhood issues? So maybe a lifestyle magazine or a lifestyle radio or a lifestyle newspaper, would be a good place to go. But anyway, we were getting back to that audience idea. We ended up talking things through with a gal I knew, kind of like you, Andrea. Like, get somebody that you are comfortable with, who cares about you and the fact that you're writing a book, and start sharing some of these themes with them and have them ask you questions. So of all the people in the universe that could be reading your book, then maybe it's, women, or maybe it's man, or maybe it's, both. Maybe it's a student, maybe it's, and then try to get the age group and try to get, so have that person maybe ask you questions in an exercise to help you really narrow down. And to your point, there could be I never say this word right, but it's a tertiary, whatever, audience as well. So you mentioned, yes, aspiring writers for Get Your Book Seen and Sold, but also writers who want a refresher course, or who maybe didn't really understand the book marketing place in their lives, and how it could have helped them to promote their book. So with the new mom book, as another example, we found funny an audience popped up, and that was grandmothers and women who were going to baby showers and needed a gift. And everybody just laughs at the title. It gets easier and other lies we tell new mothers, and everyone laughs, and it's a great gift to give to a pregnant mom. So that's another important point, that sometimes you may have identified what you think is the target audience, right? And
Yeah.
then it evolves into something that you never considered, and that's okay, because then you just start to think about where that new audience might be hanging out, and then you can focus energy there. And it really is a give and take, and a trial and error, to find the audience and the place where you should be marketing to them. But even if that's the case, even if it's two different audiences that you've considered, you've already narrowed down, of all the people in the world, your focus, and that alone is gonna save you time, money, energy, and, help you to really get to the folks who you think are gonna buy your book.
Yeah, that's a great point. I remember again when I was in advertising, PR, we always had the core audience, and then we had like a kind of a secondary audience,
Yes.
and yeah, we would take both into consideration, and also consider that the media outlets, the influencers on Instagram, all these people are also part of your target audience, because they are going to amplify your voice, and if they like your book, and if you pitch it right to them, and that's all about the hook, then you're going to get this kind of free exposure. But regarding the target audience, where would be, some people say, you can go on Facebook. Where can an author um, go to do some research online to
Right.
find, like kind of demographics, interests, all that? Where would be the places to go? What
Well,
would you
I think if you do the messaging, if you do the message, the brain dump of all the different messages,
Mhm.
and then you can go online and you can just Google some of your messages,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then you can see who's participating in those messages. And that can help you to kinda narrow down where to find people and where they hang out the most. For moms, like I said, back when 'cause the first book came out in 2008, so they really were reading magazines, but the other thing that had just come up was the new mom blogs. Mom
Yeah.
blogs, and I know they're very common now, but back 100 years ago in 2008, they were just springing up. So there was one called babycenter.com, and there were all these mommy blogs. Well, they were the perfect place to go to promote this book, because that's who would read it. That's who was interested in some of this honesty and motherhood type thing. So that's really what you need to do. You need to kind of get on some of these sites and use that search bar.
Mhm.
Like Facebook, for example, you go on Facebook and you can write new aspiring writers, if that's who you think your target audience is, for example. And then you can see, oh wow, there are some Facebook groups. They're very highly frequented, and that's where they are. Another thing that I like to do is, there's a couple of sites that are kind of social, and they can do some advertising for you, and one is called BookBub.
Oh, yeah.
BookBub. Okay. So
Yeah.
what I like about BookBub, and I would call Amazon's in the same vein as this. what I love about BookBub is of all the people that you could possibly market to, BookBub is a community of readers.
Yeah.
Well, readers buy books, okay? So you know you're in
Place.
the right place.
Mhm.
And they offer, authors the opportunity to advertise their book through their newsletter, and what they do is they take your book and what genre it is, and they match your book with
Mhm.
their community, which is millions and millions of people who have already told them what their genre of choice is. And now you're paying, and it's pretty reasonable based on the genre. But you're paying for an ad of your book specifically to people who already read in your genre. Like, isn't that much more worthwhile than, just putting an ad up on Facebook and hoping people see it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, there are mixed opinions about that. And with BookBub, yeah, you can do the listing, but you can also do the advertising. So because the
Mhm.
listing can be kind of prohibitive for some people, it can be over $1,000 if you write romance. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, these are
Right.
definitely avenues.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that. I love any company, and I don't do too many of them, but,
Mhm.
any company that does genre related and also has a large number of
Yes.
people, and I think that's worthwhile. Trying to think of the other. Written Word Media is
Yep.
another company,
Mhm.
and they do a fantastic job. I've interviewed them on my podcast. They do a great job, and they will help you. And they branched out, by the way. Like you can, it's called Bargain Booksy. So
Books.
can,
Yeah.
right, your ebook, and you can have it on their site and have them advertise it for you, but it's just reaching like a large audience of folks who already like to read your type of book, and it's very like $30. I've used that. So like in terms of your marketing budget, that to me is worthwhile. Anything that you can specifically target something that's going to reach who you have already agreed your readers are. But think of how far ahead you are. If you can take the time to identify your
Mhm.
readers, you're already so far ahead of the game because that's where all your effort is going
Yeah.
to go into. Yeah.
When it is the right time to ask yourself this question.
Oh, while you're writing your book. I probably just blew a lot of people away. Yeah. I mean, as you write your book, start to think about the messages in your book, the themes in your book. Have a little notebook and call it your marketing notebook, and just start
Mhm.
writing down themes, messages, and just have it in the back of your head. Who's going to love this book? I interviewed a gal on my podcast who did a young adult fantasy book, and she was just so great at trade shows. And you would think, trade shows, I've had people who have not had great experiences with trade shows, but she would focus on trade shows that were like DC comic related.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
oh my gosh, she found her audience, and
Yeah.
now that's all she does. She's a self-published author. She goes to trade shows. She spent some money on a great,
On the books. Yeah.
background,
Mhm.
and that's what she does. She sells her books, she signs her books, and she's got this great fan base, and I think she also communicates to them through Instagram. But that's all she's doing. She's doing 2 things, folks. She's doing trade shows and she's doing Instagram to connect with her audience, and
Mhm.
that's it. Versus, I'm gonna put my hand in Facebook, I'm gonna put my hand in Twitter, I'm gonna put my hand in LinkedIn, I'm gonna put my hand and I'm gonna spend money here to blah, 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 blah. No. So take the time to learn. Amazon is another great example. Amazon might not be the best way to advertise your book, but it might be the perfect way to advertise your book and to put, marketing dollars, especially if that's where folks are going to find your book. So you just have to do a little bit of research and find out. Now, one way that I like to see how excited I'm getting, Andrea. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
there's so much to share. There's a section in the book about Amazon, and it's not selling on Amazon. It's using Amazon as a resource. You said,
Yeah.
where can you find your audience? Okay. So Amazon, if you look at the Amazon screen, in the left-hand corner, there's a little section. let me see. I think it's right. Oh, I can show you. Okay, here it is. Oh, okay. Okay. See how this right under Amazon Prime, there's these four bars.
Yeah.
Press the 4 bars, and then you go down to boy, this is really hard to do this way. Books. And then there's another books. Go to books again. Oh my gosh, look at this information. There is this wealth of information. Every type of book that you could ever imagine is represented here. And let me see, popular books. So you want to go down here. Ah, I did the wrong thing. You want to go down to this department here. See where it says department and it says books, and then arts and photography, biographies and memoirs, business and money. So it's basically every genre of book that you could ever imagine. And if you click on, let's say you have a book and it's a memoir, click on biographies and memoirs there. And then it gets into even more detail. See if you can figure out where your book belongs. So based on the criteria, just get real specific. So you're still doing a memoir, but it's a memoir. Let me see. Down here, there's another memoir. It's more of a general memoir. And then you're going to get more specific. Okay. So what comes up? Everything that, let me see here. All the popular memoirs are going to come up. I'm going to go back because I want to hit this one. Let's see here. Arts and literature. You'll get to a point where you can pick, where you'll see the number one, or the top 10 or the top 20 books in that category, in that genre. And then you can look at the individual books. And when you get to the individual books, you can look at the front of the book. Well, a lot of times an author who will write acknowledgments. Well, in the acknowledgement section, they might write who their agent is. So if you want have your book be traditionally published, you're going to find the name of an agent who also represented a memoir, and maybe they would represent you too. Or maybe they mention an editor, or maybe they mention a publisher. You can go on their website. You can see what they're doing to market their book, especially if you feel like the book is really on par with yours. Where are they reaching their audiences? Do they have a Facebook group? Is that Facebook group? You get the idea. So use Amazon as a resource for you to get real comfortable with, first of all, what other books are out there in your genre. It's important to understand the competition, but also what they're doing to promote their books, and should you be there too?
Yeah, that's an important part of the research, and part of the marketing process is positioning your book in the market. I know this sounds very technical.
It does.
It is part of the journey when you decide to self-publish, unless you hire someone. And there is a document that we prepare for our clients when we work with them, and it's a comp title analysis. So that's what we do. We first of all, we identify the best categories, and that's a whole different conversation. And then we look at those categories to see what's going on. And you'll typically see that in some genres, there are the same books that, dominate different categories, and they stay there for a long time. Wow, what so much. So this is so
good. And I don't want to give anyone a headache. I mean, that's kind of why we wrote the book. So there are other books out there that will get into more detail and maybe more specifics, and they're like this thick, So we wanted to keep it to where you would say, okay, this is everything that we could possibly do. In fact, there's a spreadsheet in there that's a graph, and it says, kind of here's what you should be doing with marketing, or here's the different choices, or here's must-dos, and here's, you can make your decision what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, Andrea, everybody just wants to give their book the best possible push, the best possible placement. But thinking about marketing as you're writing your book and starting to write things down is so important. And also the timeline that you want to give yourself. Not everybody needs to publish a book, quickly, but they may want to give it a whole year. And I'll give you an example. With this book, Get Your Book Seen and Sold, I decided to create a Substack account and also a podcast with that Substack account. Substack allows you to create a podcast that shows up on all the other platforms, which is great. Well, as a Substack writer, I'm posting all about book marketing all the time. And I did that about 8 months before the book came out.
Yeah.
So I'm writing as an expert on book marketing for 8 whole months. I'm gathering subscribers, I'm gathering folks who are already interested in the topic. And then when the book publishes, I already have a nice warm audience waiting for me and my book. And every single one of them bought this book. No, I'm lying. They didn't. But
I'm sure many of them did. I mean, yeah.
But it's a way to we used to call it building buzz. It's a
Yeah.
way to build buzz, get people comfortable with you, and it's just another way to get your book out there. But again, Substack is a platform with who? With
Okay.
writers.
Claudine, it seems like we have
Oh, I can still hear you.
with the internet. Yeah, we are
I'm
back.
I'm still good with you. Yep.
Yeah. It's like, Sedona, Arizona. That's where I am. So the internet has its own way
Yes.
of working here. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, so try not to get too overwhelmed and
Yeah.
understand that you can pick one or two things, and everything that Andrea and I talked about in terms of the message, the audience, the hook, which is, what makes your book different from the other books out there, and why are you the person to write it and sell it? Um, those things, if you take the time to identify them, they're going to pervade every other media kit item that you create, like a press release or the information that you put on Amazon about your book, if you decide Amazon is an outlet for you to sell your book. Your author bio, your speaker sheet, if you decide that you want to be a speaker. So none of it is wasted time. All of it is valuable information that you can use throughout your book marketing process. And the other thing I like to say is share, and I don't like to scare people with this either, but listen, if you're going to be an author, regardless of whether you're a traditional author or you're a self-published author, consider yourself a business,
Yeah.
right? And part of being in business is learning new things,
Mhm.
watching your money, deciding, where your money goes. But it doesn't have to be complicated. It can be kind of fun to have that kind of power. But when you learn the few things you need to learn, you've learned them forever, and you can add on things if you'd like, but those basic things, terminology, some of the things that you never have to learn it again. Once you understand that you have book distribution options, let's say, and I'll leave it at that so we don't go down a rabbit hole. Once you understand that, you never have to learn it again. So don't, try not to get overwhelmed. Just understand that you do have options, and that, there's not one way to do it. There's certain ways to do it. And that's why having someone like Andrea in your life who understands self-publishing and knows all the ins and outs and what's current, right? Because it's changing all the
Yeah,
time.
it's changing all the time. True. Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff that's worth your marketing budget.
I think you had a great point, and I always stress this thing that self-publishing is a business. You have to look at it as a business, and as a business that's just starting, you need to invest in it in the beginning. And I know many authors, they cringe. They like, oh, I don't want to invest any money in working with someone. I don't want to invest any money in advertising, but advertising definitely helps. But if you don't know how to do it right, I'm working with an author, and he was like making sales on Amazon, but when at the end of the day he was losing money because he had the wrong keywords. So we just turned those keywords off and things got better. What would be, from your experience and your opinion, like a minimum of time, let's say per week or day, and a minimum budget an author should have to start on the right foot?
I mean, I would say based on it really depends on the book, and it depends on and I hate to say that because people are like, "Oh, sure, she's gonna say that." Yeah, it really depends on the book and the genre. But I would say
Cover aside, Claudine. So we are on cover. Yeah, we know that. So we don't talk,
Exactly.
we are not talking about, we are talking strictly about marketing,
Yes.
advertising, that kind of stuff.
Yes. I would say give yourself $5,000. I'd start there. You know,
You
and
know, you're here like, wow.
I know, I would say, but I mean, you could do a lot
Yeah,
yourself if you wanted to investigate it, and if
yeah.
you wanted to look into it, and if you had time to track it, like an Amazon ad, for example. But I would say give yourself, $5,000. For just to give you an example, for this book, for Get Your Book Seen and Sold, we identified again who's our
Mhm.
audience, writers. So we went to an organization or a website called Wow Women on Writing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they have a
Good. Yeah,
great, great blog tour,
yeah, yeah,
and that was very useful to us. So
yeah.
that was about $400 for a
Mhm.
full blog tour and reviews, and they got the ball rolling for us. And again, who reads Women on Writing? Women
Yeah,
writers, so
yeah.
again, that was a good place. We did do ads on BookBub
Mhm.
that did well. I think we did new releases for less on BookBub, that did well. We did Bargain Booksy for the ebook, that did well. I did go with a, Facebook influencer. There's a site called,
Yeah,
kindlepreneur.com.
yeah, yeah, yeah. David Chesson, we had him as a guest on our
He's
show. Yeah,
fabulous.
yeah,
He's so
yeah,
and generous, like,
yeah,
generous with what he offers.
yeah.
He has a website that talks about different Facebook influencers that you can get. So we did a bunch of things around launch time.
Mhm.
And then we did some things, going forward, here and there. We did get the number one ranking in writing and publishing on Amazon because
Oh,
what
yeah.
they call it cluster. We
Mhm,
clustered a
mhm,
bunch of things
mhm.
together. But yeah, I said to give it a good push. I would say, the $5,000 range, and also, paying someone like Andrea, who's going to really get an idea of what your book is, what your goals are, which is so important, and can put you in the right hands resource wise. Or like April Cox,
Yeah,
they're very honest, and they know what's working and what's not working, and they're not going to lead you down a bad trail. But what's funny about the $5,000, like people, oh my God, marketing $5,000. Okay, however, um, they turn maybe to independent publishing or to hybrid publishing, and you gotta pay more than that just
yeah.
to right? To get the book on, us, and that's not even including, um, m marketing.
I have to say, I'm not a fan of hybrid publishing, but I don't want to
No.
get into that.
No, 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 and I no, you can't, I mean, because that's an important thing to say, hybrid the different types of hybrid publishers are just enormous. So I've only heard of a few that are really honest and good,
Yeah.
and most of them are, not.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you. I know. Yeah.
But why
Um,
hybrid publish when you could independent publish, right?
yeah, yeah.
You know?
And then you have full control over the book. You have
Correct,
access to the sales. You keep all your
right.
royalties.
You own it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, we should do another episode. I mean, I think we should do a series of conversations because we really didn't get to talk about the hook, which is so important. But you mentioned the tactics you use to get your book to be an Amazon number one bestseller and to get sales. And basically, what you were talking about was your book launch strategy.
Yes.
And I want to mention that I have. So that's the link. I love sharing information with people. So we do have an in-person online. I mean, in person. It's not in person. It's an online, but it's live. So I'm getting in there, and it's a group coaching starting in May. And if you'd like to be a guest at some point and talk about your book, what you did for
Sure.
to launch this one, and also talk more about your book, I would definitely love to have you. But for now, I just need to get people to join this.
No,
So,
I'd love to. I'd love to be a part of it. And one thing I will say as a media person, because I do interview a lot of authors, one of the most important things is when you originally asked the question, when should you start book marketing? And I said, as you write,
Mhm.
You wanna know your book inside and out, but you'll also wanna be able to describe it in 5 words, 5,
Oh,
6,
yeah.
7 words quickly. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a book trade show and you go table to table and you say, "Oh, what's your book about?" "Well, it's kind of about this." And I, "No, no, 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 no," and it's like, "No, no, no. I need quick, and I want you to sell me. Why would I want be interested in the book?" So you got 5, words. Like for the first book that I mentioned, it was a fun practical guide for the new mom. A fun practical guide for the new mom. That's 8 words, and
Mhm.
guess what? My audience was in there, new mom. So
Yeah.
anyone who's listening to me here's fun, here's practical, here's new mom, and says, "Oh, I have a new mom in my life. Maybe I've already sold a book." For this last book with the publishing, it was or for the, marketing, it's a book to help aspiring writers to publish and market their book. Same kind of idea. They heard aspiring, they heard authors, um, they heard,
The benefit.
book
So, yeah,
publishing.
yeah, yeah.
So, a person is gonna know whether or not they're interested right there, and you can't be flim-flam about it because if you can't sell it, who's gonna sell it? You have to sell it. You have to tell folks why it's different, why it's important, and, why the message is something that's gonna resonate, what problem are you solving, or why in the world you're gonna be entertained. I remember when I was at Book Expo years ago, I was publicizing for a gal who wrote this book, and it was called Televenge. I was just writing about this. Televenge, and it was
Mhm.
this great book, but in the end, when I stood at the bottom of her, author line to get people to come in and get her galley so that she could sell the book, I said, "It's a suspense thriller."
Yeah.
Suspense thriller. So you have to just take some time, and like I said, talk it through with Andrea or someone like me, and
Yes.
get to what's the most interesting and what people are reading now and why they're gonna wanna pick up that book, but in as few words as possible.
And I think you can look at bestsellers in your genre and see what people appreciate in the reviews,
Mhm. That's a
and
great
maybe,
idea.
yeah, use some of that language,
Yeah,
borrow that. Or if it's a nonfiction book, you can look at again what people appreciated, and also look at those reviews that are 2 stars, 3 stars, maybe 1 star, and see what the book lacked, and maybe you can bring that in.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that's fun anyway. I think it's fun to look at reviews, especially the one-star review.
Yeah, I always check those out to see what. Okay.
Yeah, but some of
Um,
them are they're not, they're kinda mean and but you never know. Sometimes you find some really great information there.
where can people find you? Of course, the book is on Amazon. You will be able to read a whole review on Self Publishing Mastery. It's already there or live. But other than that, if someone wants to work with you,
Sure. Yeah, you can find me at my website, claudinewolk.com. I do consulting, and I also, have a class. It's called Sit and Write Begin, and it's just for folks who, wanna combine writing a book with selling a book from the beginning and hopefully, go through the process so that by the time they are published, they're in really great shape. And you can also please sign up for my, Substack posts, claudinewolk.substack.com, and come join my community and a lot of the information on there, podcasts, free information. So hope you join us over there.
for sure. Thank you so much, Claudine, for first of all for writing the book and publishing it. It's incredible,
Thank
and
you.
for making time to be with us today.
Thanks for
And
having me. Thanks for letting me talk about my favorite subject in the whole world.
yeah, yeah, we'll see you again soon. And thank you all for being here with us today. And stay tuned. And we'll be back. We'll be back soon with another episode of Self Publishing Mastery Talks. I'm AG Bilik, and I wish you happy writing and happy self publishing. Bye bye.